What's up, everybody? We're back for some more Malifaux lore, and this week we're going to get into some of the narrative from Malifaux Burns because we're covering Euripides of the Neverborn. So spoilers coming up for all of Euripides' stories, and you can find a list of those stories in the description below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it around because if nobody watches this, it'll make me sad. And with that done, let's get into Euripides. Euripides is almost as ancient as Titania, and he follows her not out of loyalty, but because he has foreseen that her rule is inevitable. Long ago, he was a brutal warrior, and his savagery brought together the Gigant tribes. His conquest saw him come into contact with Titania, and the two battled for days. The Autumn Queen saw that he could not be reasoned with, so she decided to give him sight, and picked up the eye she had plucked from his head, forging it into a talisman, and telling Euripides to meditate on it. Euripides spent 2 months, doing nothing but meditating and hunting, and when the time was up, he bowed at Titania's feet and pledged his loyalty to her. No one but Euripides knows what he saw during that time, but since then his ferocity is tempered, and he possesses the ability to read the future in spilled entrails. He and his tribes eventually moved north and lived in the mountains, and after Titania was imprisoned, he waited patiently for her return, knowing she would call for him. Now he and his kin slowly make their way down the mountain to return to Titania's side, and Euripides intends to make the fate he has been envisioning come to fruition, and he knows there will be no one to stop him. Euripides answers Titania's call and leads his kin down the mountain to meet with her. Unbeknownst to them, Nekima waits on the path ahead of them. When the first Cyclops in the group sees her, she calls out to him in a loud voice, identifying herself and demanding to speak to the prophet Euripides. As she does so, her voice echoes through the mountains, and they hear the distant sound of ice cracking. The Cyclops responds that her big voice will cause an avalanche. Nekima shoots back that she has wings and they do not, and that if she has to, she will pull Euripides out of the snow after they have all been buried. The Cyclops hefts its club and tells her that she will speak small or be broken. Nekima spits that she would like to see him try, and the Cyclops charges at her. She kicks some snow up in his eye, and the creature stumbles, breaking off its charge. Nekima tries to look bored and asks him how his people have survived in this habitat if they can be blinded by a little snow. It charges again, and Nekima dodges to the side and then swings her sword with 2 hands, a blow powerful enough to cleave 3 humans in half, but the sword merely bounces off the Cyclops' skin. She's briefly stunned, and the creature slams its fist into her, sending her flying onto the ground. As she recovers, she comments that that must be how they've survived, and then throws her sword at the Cyclops. It hits him in the chest, only causing a small scratch, but he is distracted, and Nekima flies at him, slamming into his chest and summoning her sword back to her hand, and then plunges it into his eye. She hears a voice call out, telling her that that is enough, and as she pulls her sword out of the body, Euripides emerges from among the other Cyclopses. He asks her why she has come, as his patience is thin, and she responds that she came for information, not to start a war. Euripides replies that this is a very Nephilim-like way to ask for help. Nekima takes it as a compliment. She asks him why his people are coming down from the mountains after so long, and he responds that they are answering Titania's call, honoring a pact that was made before the Nephilim even existed. Nekima tells him that she was sent by Titania to ask him to look into the future to find the best way for them to defeat the tyrants once and for all. He tells her that her sister Lilith came to him a century ago and threatened him, demanding to know the destiny of the humans, and now she has come as a messenger of the betrayer of their people, adding that her mother would be disappointed. Nekima responds that he is marching to go support Titania, and asks if he does not think she will be able to help them resist the tyrants. Euripides says that his opinion does not matter, as all of their actions have already been decided by fate, and that answering Titania is just what they do. They don't have a choice in the matter. Nekima is disturbed by the idea that her actions have been predetermined, and Euripides approaches the dead Cyclops and tears its body open, spilling its blood on the snow and examining the markings. He tells her that he sees a hungering darkness that will fill the weak with a brilliant light and transform the city until a winged queen emerges. Nekima asks if the queen defeats the darkness, and Euripides pauses before replying no. The darkness consumes the queen and fills her with light. Nekima considers that it must be very powerful if it is able to enslave Titania, and she tells Euripides that she will report back to the Fae Queen and tell her of her fate, but Euripides cuts her off and tells her that this is not Titania's destiny, but her own. Nekima takes a step back in shock and then flies away. Euripides wakes up in a cave and tries to use his sight to see the future, but all he sees is fire and an ancient city burning. He feels great pain, as if the fire he sees is within him, and his struggling awakes the other Gigants. He begins clawing at his skin, spilling his own blood, as if trying to let the fire out through the tears. For the next several weeks, he sees nothing but fire, and he starts to sense that something powerful is coming. He increases his pace, leading his kin to Titania's forest, and they make their way deeper inside until they make it to the Autumn Court. Euripides recognizes his queen, and when he sees her empty eye sockets, he feels anger for what has happened to her. As they approach, Titania's guards put their hands on their weapons, but then Euripides and the other gigantes kneel, and Titania says that she has awaited their return. The guards relax, and Titania approaches, asking Euripides why he increased his pace and got to her before expected. Euripides replies that he has seen something coming from beyond the expanse of fate, and Titania confirms that she has sensed the same thing. She explains that it has the mark of the tyrant Euripides, but changed somehow, and she asks him to tell her what he sees. He replies that there is no clarity, just fire, and Titania asks him to show her. She tells her guards to bring one of the survivors, and 2 autumn nights bring forth a human woman. The woman is about to protest, but Euripides rips her in half and begins trying to read her entrails. Titania sees that he is visibly in pain, but he suffers through it until she motions for him to stop. She asks what he saw, and he replies that he saw fire and a man surrounded by uncontrollable power. Titania explains that they will be protected from the fire when Euripides comes, but that she cannot be sure for how long. And Euripides laments that without his sight, he is of no use to her. Titania agrees and asks him if he remembers what she told him when she gave him his power of sight. He nods and tells her of the importance of sacrifice for their magic, and that in order to gain the power of sight, one must be blinded first. Titania explains that sacrifices from within are the most powerful, but Euripides says that he always sacrifices others as he cannot read his own blood. The Autumn Queen responds that this time the sacrifice must come from him if he is to earn the right to see again, and she hands him a knife and projects images of runes into his head. He understands and begins carving the symbols into his skin, and after completing a few, he feels the fire within him start to diminish. Slowly the pain dies down, and his clarity and sight begin to return. When he's finished, he proclaims that Titania's rule is inevitable, and she responds that it will always be so, and that she will not be denied. So that's it for Euripides. He's obviously one of the newer characters to the story, so there's not much to it yet, but I'm pretty excited to see where he's going. Malifaux Burns was really just a couple of stories showing how some of the characters were affected by the Burning Man's arrival, but most of them are kind of left on a cliffhanger, which makes me super excited for next year's book, where hopefully we're going to see where some of the narrative actually goes. I'm excited to see how this relationship with Titania is going to pan out, since we kind of have 2 different factions among the Neverborn. You got Lilith, Zoraida, and their clique, and then Titania, Euripides, and kinda Nekima. Plus you have outside factions that know about this split, and I wonder how many of them are going to try to take advantage. But anyway, drop a comment below, let me know what master you want to see me do a video on next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Bonus points if you share the video with somebody else, and thanks for watching.